Hello, my name is Sarah, and I work for CREA, the Cadance River Education Alliance, and we're located right in Topsham. And what you're looking at there on the screen, that red building, that is a picture of our ecology center. So that's kind of like my school where I teach. I teach there with a woman named Carey. Carey and I are both scientists, and we're both teachers. And your teachers told us that you're doing a bird unit in school, learning all about birds. So what we did is we went inside our ecology center and we collected all the fun stuff that would be good to teach about birds. And we've actually loaned some of it out to your school. So if you saw the kingfisher up close or the owl up close, that's stuff that usually lives right here in our ecology center. So today what we're going to do in this video is play a little game where we get a super up close look at some of our birds. And we're going to look especially at their beaks and match up what their beaks might be good for. So let's head in. Here we are. We walked inside the ecology center, and you'll notice it looks very different than the typical classroom. I hope you can come visit me here sometime, maybe this summer. If you look up high and all around to the sides, you see we have some birds, some different animals, and especially some birds, and we're going to go get those down so that we can use them for our lesson today. So in a minute, Carey will start showing you up-close looks at them.
Hi, welcome to CREA. My name is Carey, and this is the classroom that Sarah and I usually teach in. It looks a little different than your typical classroom. Your classroom probably doesn't have things like an otter sitting next to you or a coyote up above. But this is the place that students come and they get to experience outside. It's a pretty unique spot.
So while Carey is getting her things ready, I want you to just take a quick look at these beaks. And I want you to take your finger and see if you can trace in the air the shape of these three different beaks. And now take a look at these beaks. Are they the same or are they different? Can you trace some new shapes that we didn't see yet? Do you think there's even more different shapes than this? You guessed it. There are tons of different kinds of beaks. So look at this poster and just find what you think is the coolest looking beak. Look at all those different shapes. I'm going to circle one of mine. Let's see. This right here. Did anyone else have that as a favorite? I love how there's that hook at the top, and then the bottom is like a little mini pelican pouch. I also super love this guy because boop, boop, it's like a super short little beak. So I have a question for you. All these different birds have different beaks. Why? Isn't just one kind of beak good enough? Why are there so many kinds of beaks? Any ideas? Carey is going to help us figure out the answer to that question.
So if you saw that picture with Sarah, you probably came up with lots of different great ideas on why birds have different shaped beaks. Today we're going to talk about the fact that birds have those beaks as a tool, and they're shaped differently because all birds eat different sorts of food. It would be amazing to be able to look at every single different kind of beak in the world, but we don't have that much time today. So we're going to just focus on these 6 birds that we have here that all live in Maine and that you could see outside if you look closely. So I'm going to draw the 6 different beak shapes on the board, and you think about which one of these birds you think they might go with. So one of these beaks has a really sharp hook, and it looks really aggressive and mean. Another bird's beak is kind of short and fat, and really strong at the back. Then there's our bird that has a long beak, but it's kind of stubby at the end, built like a chisel. Think about what bird might need a chisel. Then we have a bird that has a beak that's kind of rounded, and it has little slots right here that lets the water drain out. That's a big clue. We also have a bird that has a little small, tiny, well, even tinier than that, curved beak that's actually hollow inside. And the last bird beak we're going to talk about today, is shaped very tiny and comes to a point. So those are the 6 beaks we're going to look at today. I actually brought with me a bag of tools, and we're going to see if we can figure out which one of these tools I pull out matches up with a beak here, and then which of those beaks belongs to my birds over here. So let's see which our first tool is. This has a lot of holes in it, and it looks like it would be good for scooping out noodles. So you'd scoop up your noodles and let all the water drain out. Which bird had some holes in its beak to let the water drain out? This one right here. Now if we think about our birds here, which one of these birds might live in the water? Our ducks. Now these mallards will have a close-up shot of their beaks, and you can see underneath there's all these little ridges, and that lets the water drain out because these ducks are going to grab big mouthfuls of water, and they want to eat the little tiny plants and insects that are left behind. So they drag a big mouthful, the water drains out, and then they swallow the other stuff. So those are our scooper beaks.
This is our chance to look up super close underneath that duck's beak. So do you see those little ridges where in between the water would strain out? The water would fall out in between those ridges, and the plants would stay in the duck's mouth.
All right, let's see which one we find next. I reach into my bag now. A chisel. Look at this. This is used for chipping into wood. It's kind of got a flat spot here, and it's really pointy and sharp right here. Which one has flat on the top and then has a little angle up on the bottom? This one right here. And if I said this chisel chips into wood, which one of my birds right here do you think is going to chip into wood with its beak? This one, my woodpecker. And we'll have a close-up of this beak, but you can see it's got a sharp point, but it's also kind of flat at the tip, and that helps it chisel into this wood so it can get those little insects that live inside there.
Here's an up-close look at that woodpecker's beak. Trace the shape with your finger. And imagine if you were a bird and had to peck into a tree to get out bugs to eat. That would be a pretty good chisel beak to do it with. Also, I want you to look up close at that beak. Do you see any feathers that look like they're on the beak? This is actually a special adaptation that woodpeckers have to keep sawdust and wood chips when they're pecking. They don't want those sawdust and wood chips to get in their nose and to breathe them in, so they actually cover up their nostrils with those special feathers.
All right, let's see what's in the bird beak bag next. Look at this one. That has some really sharp hooks on it that look like they'd be really good for ripping stuff into tiny pieces. Can anyone see a picture on my whiteboard that looks like it has a hook to it? This one right at the top is great for ripping. And birds would need to rip their prey if they eat things that are bigger and they need to make it into smaller pieces. Now they don't come with a knife and a fork, so they need to use their beak as that tool. Can anyone see on all the birds here, any birds that might have that hooked beak for hunting and ripping their prey? That's right, there's two. There's one up here, and you can see that hook really well. And those of you who know owls might know that they have that beak as well. This one's more hidden. We're going to take a closer look at that hooked beak and see how well it is shaped to rip its food.
Here's that close-up Look at this beak. Trace that one. That's really different than anything we've had before. Really hooked. Does that look like it would be good for pecking into a tree to get bugs out, like the woodpecker? No way. Does it look like it would be good for scooping up a mouthful of pond water with plants in it, like the ducks did? No way. But this looks really, really good for tearing apart prey into smaller pieces. So owls and hawks and eagles, they all have this really sharp hunter beak.
All right, we're getting down to the last few beaks. Let's see what one comes up next. This looks like a really strong tool for breaking things. And this one is really fat at the back, kind of comes to a point. Are there any up here that are fat at the back? This one right here. And this is built for seed cracking. It's really strong. It doesn't need to tear anything up because this bird is just going to eat seeds. It doesn't need to strain anything out of the water. It just needs to be strong. So if we look at our birds over here, there's one that has a really strong back, this cardinal, and it comes to a point to pick those seeds out, and then it uses its strong beak to crack those seeds.
So use your finger to make in the sky the shape of that triangle beak. That's a seed cracker beak. A really nice, thick, strong triangle beak to crush seeds.
All right, we only have 2 beaks left. Let's see which one comes up next. This one is very pointy, but also really skinny. Look how tiny that is. So this tweezer is good at grabbing something very small and pulling on it and eating it. So this bird is definitely going to eat tiny things. Can anybody find a beak on this board that looks really, really tiny and like it might be able to grab something out of the sky? That's right, this one right here. We call this one our tweezer beak. And these tweezer beaks are used to catch flies. This is a group of birds we call flycatchers. And they're able to catch insects out of the air with their beaks. We're going to pause and watch a video of a flycatcher catching some bugs.
So there's that flycatcher. This one's called a phoebe. And if you watch, you'll see how he just sits on the branch, and then as soon as he sees a bug, whoop, it's like an acrobat, just takes off into the air and uses that really small, tiny tweezer beak to just grab a mosquito or grab a bug, a dragonfly right out of the air and gobble it up.
Our last beak is this little hollow straw-like beak. Oh, it's totally hollow in the middle. And we have to think about a bird that would like to suck up its food. So it's not going to be eating flies. You find a bird, our last beak right here. This one, look, it's also curved. My straw isn't curved. But this bird does have a special curved beak. And we're going to call this our straw beak. Think about what bird might eat something that's a liquid. They're not going to eat plants. They're not going to eat seeds. They're not going to eat animals. This is a hummingbird's beak. They're really amazing to watch those birds drink. So we're going to pause and watch a quick video of a hummingbird drinking some of its food.
And here you can see that long, thin beak that looks like a straw. So the hummingbird actually sticks that beak inside the flower and sucks out that delicious nectar inside.
All right, now that you are beak experts and you've learned how to be scientists that can carefully observe, we're going to take this mystery bird that we don't know much about and see if we can look at its beak and determine what it might eat.
Hello, friends. This is our last activity together today. And all we're going to do is look right here at this mystery bird and see if we can figure out what it eats by looking at its beak. So we're going to look at the shape of its beak and think, do we recognize this beak? Because if we do, if it's like one of the ones we learned about today, then it probably eats the same kind of food. So let's check. We'll look real quick through these birds we learned about today and see if it's a match. Start with this one. This, remember, was that duck, a strainer beak. So it got a big scoop of pond water and all the water fell out in between these little cracks and the food stayed in its mouth. Let's check mystery bird. Nope, doesn't look like there's any place for water to fall out. Okay, how about this one? A long, thin straw beak to suck nectar out of flowers. Let's see. Nope. This guy, I think if he tried to suck nectar out of a flower, would just crush the flower. So probably not a straw beak. How about this guy? A hook. Sharp hook to tear apart prey? Nope. Mystery bird does not have a hook. So mystery bird probably could not tear apart any prey. How about this? Tweezer beak to be an acrobat in the sky and grab mosquitoes? No, this beak doesn't look quite tweezery enough, not little and nimble enough. How about over here, this triangle seed cracker beak? Ooh, this is looking like a good match. I think this might be a seed cracker beak, just like our friend the cardinal. Look at that match. Let's check our last one. Let's see. Long, thin, but strong chisel beak, like a woodpecker. No way. This guy does not look like he has a long enough beak to peck into wood. So if you guess that it's this same shape and it's a seed cracker beak, you were right. Our mystery bird is a rose-breasted grosbeak, and this bird does eat seeds. Great figuring out, guys. Thanks, friends. That's all for today. And thank you for using your eagle eyes and looking up close. Super duper up close to get a good look at those bird beaks. Next time we're with you, we're actually going to look in the Ecology Center at all the bird nests that we can find, and we have lots of them. So instead of birds using their beaks to catch food, we're going to talk about birds using their beaks to make a nest, and we're going to try it. All right, see you next time.